Good morning. This hearing is called to order. The title of this hearing is Congressional Oversight in the Face of Executive Branch and Media Suppression, and in particular case study of the Crossfire Hurricane corrupt investigation. I'll add that. The hearing is actually quite a bit broader than that, but we'll certainly focus on that. I became chairman of this committee in January 2015 and will complete my 6-year term at the end of this month. We can all be proud of the more than 100 pieces of legislation we worked on together as a committee that became law. The other more than 200 bills that we passed out of committee, although not signed into law, can still serve as the basis for future legislation. Our committee and subcommittees also have broad oversight jurisdiction and responsibilities that we have not ignored. We investigated and exposed problems within the VA healthcare system, human trafficking, national security leaks, and systemic violations of the Hatch Act within the Postal Service, to name just a few. Most recently, we've held 8 hearings and roundtables on the current administration's response to the coronavirus. It is not surprising that some of our oversight investigations did not receive bipartisan support, in particular, those concerning corruption within the Obama administration. In February 2018, reflecting on his 8 years in office, President Obama stated, "We didn't have a scandal that embarrassed us." And further, in May of 2018, he stated, "I didn't have scandals." Not only were those scandals denied by the former president, they were also largely ignored by both Democrat colleagues and most of the media. But nothing could be further from the truth. A short list of the known scandals demonstrates why they should not be ignored and need to be fully investigated and exposed. Now, I'll depart from my full written statement because I have more detail on these as I list them out, and I'll ask that my full statement be entered in the record, but let's just go down a quick list, and I want to make a couple points of why these are relevant. Fast and Furious. The result of that, and we have Ms. Atkinson here that can testify to being spied on, was the result of that scandal, the Obama administration started spying on journalists. We also saw that Eric Holder was held in contempt of Congress, but never held accountable for it, which I'm highlighting right now, which just shows one of the problems Congress has in its oversight capabilities. We have no method of enforcing subpoenas or prosecuting somebody held in contempt if that person held in contempt is a member of the administration. It really renders us very toothless in terms of effective oversight. Benghazi. I won't go into the detail there other than to say that Susan Rice went on Sunday morning shows, lied to the American people, and said there was a violent protest outside of our embassy sparked by a hateful video. Secretary Clinton then was reported to comment to the father of one of the fallen heroes, quote, "We will make sure that that person who made that film is arrested and prosecuted," unquote. Just so happens that producer of the video was jailed shortly thereafter and served a year in jail in prison for a probation violation on a separate charge. I would view that as somewhat of abuse of power. The IRS scandal, where the IRS was turned into a political weapon against conservatives, targeted and not allowed to have tax-exempt status. In that case, IRS employee Lois Lerner just refused to testify. She pleaded the Fifth for Congress. Later, oh, by the way, she retired with full retirement benefits, was never held accountable, never punished. IRS later admitted that years after potentially responsive records, including many of Lerner's emails, had been lost due to hard drive crashes. Once again, no one was ever held accountable. The Biden-Ukraine conflict of interest scandal. The thing I want to point out about this is how the press actually was interested in this. Back in October of 2015, when the Wall Street Journal actually inquired of the Vice President's office about that conflict of interest with Hunter being on Burisma's board, they inquired on October 21st. That was the exact same day that Vice President Biden decided not to run in the primary against Hillary Clinton. Again, in December 2019, Politico actually published a 20-page article on Biden, Inc., revealed an awful lot of some of the types of financial foreign entanglements that Senator Grassley and my investigations also revealed in our September 2020 report. Past that point, the press pretty well ignored the glaring conflict of interest that George Kent said was awkward for all policymakers trying to run an anti-corruption agenda in Ukraine. The Clinton email scandal. This is really, when I took over chairman in January 2015, it was in March 2015 that it was revealed that Hillary Clinton ran most of her emails through a private server. Not only is this committee the General Oversight Committee of Congress, we have specific legislative jurisdiction on federal records. So that really began my work and this committee's work for the last 6 years investigating some of this corruption in the Obama administration. I think it's important that, to note that this represents, from my standpoint, the unequal application of justice. Hillary Clinton was exonerated. The email scandal, the mid-year examination investigation, morphed into the Crossfire Hurricane scandal. And I just want to talk about one of the texts that Peter Strzok texted to Lisa Page shortly after they exonerated Hillary Clinton. He said, "And damn, this feels momentous." Now he's talking about Crossfire Hurricane, because this matters. The other one did too, the mid-year exam, but that was just to ensure we didn't F something up. This matters because it matters. So super glad to be on this voyage with you. And yet we had the Inspector General, when he reviewed the FISA abuse in his report, claimed that there was no proof that political bias affected any actions. I would challenge that statement. The final one I want to talk about is what we uncovered in our July 2017 report on leaks. And the overall summary of that is that report showed 125 leaks in the first 126 days of the Trump administration. 62 of them would have been defined as harming national security according to the Obama administration's definition of that. And that 62 compares with, I think, 8 or 9 during both the Bush and the Obama administrations. Just an explosion of leaks. And by the way, those leaks are what drove and sustained the false narrative of Russian collusion with the Trump campaign. Those proven totally false, but was the center of the Crossfire Hurricane investigation, and then a special counsel, and quite honestly morphed into an impeachment trial here in the Senate. Now, a common element of each of these scandals is the abuse of executive branch power. If this misconduct remains hidden or goes unpunished, it represents a serious threat to our individual freedoms and our democratic republic. I do not make that statement lightly. I would also say they really demonstrate a pattern of bias and unequal treatment. Certainly bias in the media, bias in the social media, the censorship that we've witnessed over the last few months, but also a pattern of bias and unequal treatment in our justice system. I pointed that out earlier. And I would also say a pattern of unequal treatment, unequal loyalty, and bias within the executive branch. I mean, I find it shocking that within 2 weeks of President Trump entering office, 2 of his phone calls to world leaders were leaked to the press. This is unprecedented. It's actually what spawned our investigation into the leaks to show the 125 leaks in the first 126 days. This cannot go on. This is dangerous to our democratic republic. Unfortunately, my efforts to uncover the truth have been severely obstructed by the agencies involved, by entrenched bureaucrats that have every incentive to keep it hidden. This has been true during both the Obama and Trump administrations. For example, the FBI did not meaningfully produce records about the Crossfire Hurricane investigation until I subpoenaed them in August of this year. And even then, documents are heavily redacted. And I've just got a quick example of this. You know, we did, in one of our reports, is on the transition and abuse of the GSA process. This is an email that the GSA produced to us, and you can see we can read the whole thing except for the mobile phone number of the sender of the email. This is the exact same email produced to us by the FBI. As you can see, almost everything is redacted. There's no reason for things to be redacted. There's nothing involving or harming national security here. Might embarrass the agency, but doesn't harm national security. This is what we've been dealing with. This is the resistance we have encountered in our investigations into abuse of power. In May, Senator Grassley and I requested a list of Obama officials who unmasked Trump campaign and transition officials. That list has apparently been compiled, but has not been provided to the committee because it remains stuck somewhere between the NSA and the Department of Justice. Without those records, it would not be productive, so we have not interviewed the officials involved in those unmaskings. Finally, just yesterday, the State Department produced an unclassified version of an email that Senator Grassley and I requested in August that still contains several redactions. I was able to review the unredacted version and can only say that what remains classified should not be classified. The information would not harm national security, but it would reflect poorly on the Vice President Biden. That is not a valid reason for classification or for indefinitely withholding the information from Congress. These investigations have also been hampered by false allegations made against me and Senator Grassley by senior Democrat leaders, including this committee's ranking member. In letters, purportedly classified staff memos immediately leaked to the press, and statements on the floor and to the media, they have accused Senator Grassley and me of receiving and disseminating Russian disinformation. This is patently false and is easily proven so by a careful examination of our reports. Yet no matter how many times we issue denials, a compliant media repeats their false allegations. This was the exact same playbook used with the Steele dossier and the Russian collusion hoax. These claims are especially galling because in both cases, Democrats were the real peddlers of Russian disinformation. Now, the purpose of today's hearing is to release and examine two timelines. I've got them right here. One that's a little more condensed and more general about all of our investigations, and then one that's really specific and far more detailed on the Crossfire Hurricane investigations. To help place these scandals in perspective, we're also going to release new documents we've obtained related to the Crossfire Hurricane investigation, and also to demonstrate how much has been withheld and how many questions remain unanswered. And I ask all of this information be entered in the record. The volume of information that should be considered cannot be covered in a single hearing. Instead, I've invited 3 witnesses to talk about specific aspects of these scandals in which they have detailed knowledge. Again, I thank the witnesses for the time they have taken to prepare and appear before this committee, and I look forward to the testimony. Again, I really do want to thank the witnesses for your time and your appearance here. And with that, I'll turn it over to Senator Peters.